What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. I was actually planning to do a Harsetti video today, but I forgot this kind of came out of nowhere. Or those of you that have been keeping track, I guess some of y'all may have been expecting this, but this totally flew under my radar because of the WC pushing back the last balance patch. I feel like I haven't been even aware when these are supposed to be coming out. But regardless, guys, look how crazy this lineup is. And we're gonna check this out and read it together. My boy Koven just sent this over to me, so I haven't checked out literally anything yet. So everything I read from here on out, we're gonna go ahead and check out live together. All right, so we got a lot to get through. Let's go ahead and get started. Smilegate added so many to this list, and thank God, because last balance patch was a little bit light, especially after they removed the pirate Captain Flan. All right, so we do see a system improvement for extra turn. The probability number of turns are based on fully enhanced characters. Skill cooldowns will not be changed unless stated. Skill description mentioned in the preview may differ from the actual update. Okay, we'll keep that in mind because usually when they add this, it's relevant, obviously. So Ruele of Light, a Soul Weaver that's been very out of the meta. Really just a lack of tempo compared to a lot of the Soul Weavers or just support units nowadays. But let's go ahead and see what they're changing. Key to an Oath, which is her S1, her skill 1. So this will now be an AoE heal. Very nice. But the amount recovered is decreased, but that should still be a net positive because we're going from 1 heal to 4. So very cool. Light Pillar. Let's see here. This is the S2. And this combat readiness was actually added in one of her recent buffs, which almost did nothing. It was a useless buff pretty much. But now they're taking that away. And now it's going to grant a barrier and damage limit for 2 turns. Damage limit, I believe, guys, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the same one as Gala. I wonder if, yeah, I'll double check after this, but I believe that's the Gala kind of effect, right? Maybe they'll write it down here. But before, let's go ahead and keep going down. Light Ascending, we'll read the Awakened version. This is the skill of 3, revives one dead ally, or we already know what it does, or you should know. Big heal invincibility and can revive as well. At the start of the first battle, grants Spirit Lord's protection. Okay, kind of like the Destina, which upon receiving lethal damage, revives with 50% health and increases combat readiness by 50%. I say like Destina because I believe her effect that they gave her to a buff later on was called something similar, and it would make sense, right? Destina and Ruele are connected in the lore, but this one is much different. Upon receiving lethal damage, revives with 50% health and increases combat readiness by 50%. That is insane, guys. So she's just gonna have this buff that it seems like it doesn't go away, right? It doesn't seem like it has a duration on here, and that means you just have to kill her twice, unless there is some kind of extinction block, or sorry, extinction or revive block, I should say. Yeah, you're just gonna Ruele will automatically come back to life. So think of this like a passive that's built in. At the start of the battle, she just gets this, and she'll get a revival plus combat readiness by 50%. That's going to make her very annoying on top of these other effects, too. This is actually very strong for Ruele. Do they talk about... Let's see what they talk about here real quick. Additionally, the combat readiness increased. The amount of key to oath has been slightly reduced, and now heals entire... Okay, I just need to look up... the only thing I'm not fully sure on is the damage limit. Need to double check what that one is. But yeah, you guys can just let me know and let everyone else know in the comments. But yeah, we'll check that later. So Silverblade Aramintha, another unit that needs buff. So Ruele definitely needed some love. SBA, guys, we can all agree definitely needed some love. Flame Friction. So they're taking away the combat readiness, right? And now, let's see here. Detonating burn effect. So she's going to have the built-in detonate at the end of the turn. Okay, so she applies the burn, right? And then before detonating burn effects on enemies at the end of the turn as well. Let's keep reading here. I need to piece this all together. So Flames of Savara. The start of the first battle increases attack proportional to effectiveness. Oh, wow. Is this the first time we've had this kind of this sort of yeah, attack ratio with effectiveness? The rate of the increased attack effect is on a change after it's activated. When an ally, except for the caster, ends their turn, increases combat readiness of the caster. Excuse me, sorry, I butchered that sentence. When an ally, except for the caster, ends their turn, increases combat readiness of the caster, aka Silverblade Aramintha, by 15%. Let me just remind myself what I used to do before. When an ally, except for the caster, uses an attack that targets all enemies, increases combat readiness of the caster by 20%. Okay. Meteor Fall, the big money maker here. Let's see. This is a big stun, right? AoE stun. Before 65% each to inflict 2 burns. Now we guarantee 2 burns, right? No RNG. And some damage dealt. But it's kind of the same. We do get a -1 cooldown because the damage is the same because they just removed the effect chance. It's now guaranteed to just get 2 burns, and they get this as well. Okay. Take down enemies more easily through burn. So instead of just a stun bot, her attack is going to go a big time. You're going to be able to just cleave or stun through a lot of high F-res units. I really like this change, but I'm worried. I'm worried about fighting it. And then the more guaranteed detonates, right? So overall, I think these are very good buffs. The Ruele one very strong. SBA one very strong. Yeah, it used to be 65, I guess. Is that 75 after enhancement? Now it's 100. And yeah, the when an ally except for the caster that targets all enemies thing, I think this is much better. She just gets so much more tempo, combat readiness push as well. And the cooldown will be removed. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Next up, guys, Last Rider Krau, another unit. This one not as bad, but you definitely have seen his play rate drop off, especially compared to units like Ambitious Tywin. He's the golden boy that's kind of been left out. But let's go and read code number. This is his passive. Okay, so the barrier will now be 2 turns instead of 1 turn. That's pretty nice. Nothing too crazy, though. Mobile weapon Siegfried. So I'm just double checking if I didn't miss anything there. Mobile weapon Siegfried. Let's look at the Awaken. This is the S3 where he summons the bike. Granting immunity to all allies and increasing skill cooldowns by 1 turn. But the cooldown is now 8 turns. Penetrates defense, but cannot trigger a critical hit. Okay. So he decreases the skill cooldowns of allies by 1 turn. Is that what I'm reading? Yeah. All right. A little similar to maybe something like Laya. So more utility in the form of reducing cooldowns of your allies. So a lot more team support between the extra turn on barrier and decreased skill cooldown. Very minor compared to the other 2 units we just saw, but like I said, he's not in as bad of a spot. You just don't see him nearly as much as we used to. Additionally, duration of the barrier is applied. Yeah, I read that. This will allow allies to use their key skills more frequently. Okay. We'll see if this one actually makes him usable. Or sorry, he's very usable already, but maybe make him more meta is what I meant to say. Commander Pavel. Again, guys, these are just units that definitely... A lot of these were kind of on the cusp of being... well, some of them are a lot weaker, but a lot of these are on the cusp of being great. They just missed the mark a little bit or got power crept for whatever reason. This one, though, I'm not sure. Let's see. Die, you fly. Is this his skill 3, guys? Yes, right? This is the one with the cool animation. The execution effect, I believe. So, let's see. Soul Burn, increased damage dealt. When before it was skill cooldown decreased. Okay, so they're just affecting the Soul Burn. So more damage. Alright, I'm not sure. This seems very, very light. But we have a lot of units to go through. Caval fans, let me know if this is enough. I imagine that this doesn't seem too hot. But I'm not a cleaver, so you guys tell me. Designer Lilibet. And if you weren't aware, guys, Designer Lilibet, not very effective versus Harsetti, unfortunately, depending on because of the wording. But let's read here. Slice the piece. Her skill 1. D-break instead of silence. And the soul burn, instead of making 100% silence, we do defense for 2 turns. This is huge. Silence is not a bad debuff, but 2 turns of defense break, or just defense break in general, and then being able to soul burn with a 100% chance and 2 turns is going to make her a lot more usable. She's going to be a lot more threatening. Defense break, as a lot of y'all should know, probably already do know, is just when you land that, a lot of times that just means the unit is dead. The unit in question. Emergency stitching, her passive. Let's see. Oh, okay, so she's going to get immunity plus increased defense. All right, nice. And then the skill 3, let's read the Awakened. So before it was all combat readiness of all allies. So we still have that. The wording does change here a little bit. Before increasing combat readiness. And then penetrates the target's defense by 50%. And the damage dealt is increased on top of that. So the immunity, right? The defense break. And then additional damage. A lot more additional damage depending on how much they add here. But 50% defense pen plus damage dealt increase just over the board, right? Across the board. Wow. All right, designer Lilibet looking a lot better. Potentially, some people actually before, guys, maybe many seasons ago, were actually using her as a damage dealer. She could solo DPS certain matches, but this is going to make it much, much more viable. I like that. Twisted Kayron, guys. This guy needed a lot of love. All right, Sundering Slash. So this entire thing is getting changed, it looks like. Attacks the enemy with a sword and grants a barrier to the caster for 1 turn. When triggered as a counterattack, it changes into an attack that targets all enemies. Barrier strength increases proportional to the caster's max health. I have to remind myself. Let's see. Okay, so essentially they're changing it so that it's just always AoE. Or no, excuse me. Sorry, it still says here when triggered as a counterattack. What exactly is getting changed around here? Damage dealt increased during counterattack. When triggered. So this is the part when triggered as a counterattack. Or does it say that here? When counterattacking, activates Flash Slash. I think they're just condensing it, but I'll read their footnotes at the bottom. It's very late for me, guys, and I'm having trouble keeping up with that change. But looks like just damage dealt increased during the counterattack. I guess they're just removing the Flash Slash name. We'll double check that, though. Wandering Eidolon. Let's see here. So they're increasing the combat radius by 50 to 100 when he is full. Okay. And then Sword of Requiem. It goes from 2,000 to 5,000 additional fixed. And one of the changes on Kayron was that you can rip this early. You don't have to wait fully. So now it's up to 15,000 as well. Increased souls. It does have a higher cooldown, but the damage dealt is increased on top of that. All right, let's read what they wrote here. Yeah, the combat radius now will go to 100, which is kind of crazy. The base fixed damage, 5,000. Yeah, from 2,000. So 2 to 5, and then 10 to 15. And then the base damage of Sword of Requiem also gets increased. Did they talk at all about his S1, the Sundering Slash? I don't see it here. I'm assuming it's just more damage. Oh, wait, sorry. They just did out of order. Sundering Flash will be merged. Okay, so it is what I thought. The Flash Slash and Sundering Slash they're just converging it. Will trigger as an attack that targets all enemies in counterattack situation. Additionally, be improved so that it can grant a barrier even when not in counterattack. All right. So across the board, more damage, barrier. Yeah. All right. That's a significant change. If he does a lot of damage, definitely going to be viable. Melissa, very light changes here, it looks like. They always like buffing Melissa. Damage up, increase the proportion of the caster's lost health. And now we're getting damage dealt increased. Manifestation will be adjusted to address the difficulty and reliably utilizing the damage increased effect based on her lost health. Okay. Just essentially, usually when they do these light changes, it just means she's going to be a lot more, the damage will be a lot more consistent across a lot of different scenarios, where before it was a lot, they're saying it's difficult because of it was hard to utilize because of the proportional caster's lost health. Now it's just going to be, it does more damage in more scenarios. And they're changing the EE as well. All right. Melissa players, just like I last on Pavel. Let me know if you guys like this, if you think it's enough to make her a lot more viable. I won't say meta, but she has received a lot in the past, and I still would say I don't mind seeing her on these buff notes. All right, our boy says, it is not Specimen says, guys. Blue says, the Wind Rider bomber himself. Dark Shadow will awaken. Let's see here. So, let's read Encroach. This is the skill 1, right, guys? They've changed him so many times, I'm starting to forget, but I think this is the skill 1 that has the extra effect, the Encroach part. Now it's just going to attack the enemy dark energy, making them unhealable. Damage dealt increases proportional to target's lost health. So they're removing the entire Encroach, that extra animation and effect. Die Hard as well, let's see. Damage suffered 1 attack. See, I even forgot he had this ability, boys. I remember Says from like day 1 days when we used them as a farmer. But yeah, I guess he did get this 51% max health ability. It used to grant stealth. And now, after an ally, except for the caster attacks, when the target's health is 30% or less, activates Encroach. Oh, interesting. Okay. They're moving the Encroach from the skill 1 into his passive. Encroach can only be activated once every 3 turns. Okay, so it's like they need to be lower on health, and then he'll activate Encroach. Target's lost health. Let's see here. Says will be adjusted to enhance synergy with his allies. With this adjustment, Dark Shadow, which previously triggered conditionally through Encroach, will not be transferred as passive skill. Yeah. Additionally, Crouch will now increase the caster's combat readiness, making it easier for him to secure turns and continue skill combos with his allies. I don't know, guys, how much this will actually affect says. Damage down. Okay. We'll see. I'm having trouble. They keep talking about like combo synergies. I'm not sure if this is like what kind of buff this is for, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Elena. Wow, Elena needed a buff? Let's see. Just the EE, huh? Dispels 1 additional debuff from all allies, which was already... Guys, this was an awesome EE. Now it's going to dispel 1 debuff from allies when using Consecrated Ground. Oh, wait. Do I like this? I don't know if I like this. Hold on. So the Consecrated Ground is the S2 passive, right? Where this Eternally Shining Comet was her S1, I think? Or was that the S3? I think this is the S3, actually. Let's see here. We'll be changed to trigger through Consecrated Ground. She will now be able to immediately spell buffs after enemies attack that targets all enemies. So instead... Okay. Making it useful against enemies that primarily use attacks. Well, I mean, you only bring Elena versus enemies that primarily attack. And I'm trying to think of scenarios where I wouldn't like this. But I think overall... Like I said, we bring her against AoE. So now we get the additional dispel there. Alright. Sure. I guess with all the units that have multiple debuffs, now we get it immediately. Yeah, you know what? This is probably a lot nicer. Okay, Oh my god, guys. The great Mortelix. Here's what I'm excited for. All right, we're cooking. Look how much buffs we have for him, too. It looks like we affected every skill as well. All right, let's get the first skill. Extermination. Attacks the enemy by piercing them. Ignore FRES of any targets with max health lower than the caster's max health. So no longer on the Enrage. Now he's just going to always ignore effect resist when he has higher health. I love that, man. Very fitting of a dragon. Dragon king? I think he's like a king or something. Absolute dignity. Immune to debuffs, which prevents movement. This is, I think, not too important. It should still affect these two primarily. All heroes except for the caster cannot counterattack. Wait a second. Excuse me? All heroes except for the caster cannot counterattack. When an ally is attacked, has a 20% chance to counterattack, and after counterattacking, has a 100% chance to use Sacred Blessing. Okay, we still have the Sacred Blessing, but it does get changed to now the built-in Elbrus. Okay, so he loses the self-counter set, but now he gets an Elbrus effect. This part is the one that I'm like, all heroes except for the caster cannot counterattack. That is wild. Sacred Blessing grants skill nullifier once to all allies and increases speed to the caster for 2 turns. Skill null instead of crit hit resistance, which is already insane, and then increase speed to the caster, which he had already. But the skill null over crit hit resist. And we're not even done yet. The stomp, the foot, inflicts fear for 2 turns. Oh my god, a new effect. Cannot act for a certain number of turns. At the start of the turn has a 40% chance to be dispelled. What did they do to Mort? So no longer inflicts injuries. He doesn't get the self enrage either. They just take out the he just loses the enrage, right? He doesn't need enrage anymore, period. He'll now have defense pen. Man, guys, Ilinov stocks are going up though. Defense pen. Highest max health by 70. Ignore effectors of any targets with max health lower. Same thing like the S1, right? Oh my goodness, man. Damage will increase, healing increase. Cooldown goes up 1 turn, but more souls. The fear effect is kind of crazy. Let's see what they write. I want to see what they say about the fear effect here. Yeah, and this thing is also so powerful, man. This is like what Astro Elena kind of wanted to do, but we now have it on Mortelix, who's going to be a high HP god. Yeah, so he loses the self counter. Now he gets Elbrus. Additionally, the activation condition for Sacred Blessing will change. Yeah. The skill nullifier and the skill cooldown. Let's read the fear. Disrupting their actions and penetrating some of the defense. Okay, they didn't really write too much on it. But this is an interesting effect, guys. The 40% chance to be dispelled. I don't know if I like that. It's more RNG, where it reminds me of like a Pokemon or some other kind of turn-based game, right? Where you do a control effect, like a sleep or something, and then, you know, your Pokemon has a chance to wake up, but it's not guaranteed. 40% chance to be dispelled. All right, we'll see. Smilegate's trying out new things, so before I badmouth it too much, we'll try it. We'll try it out. Regardless, though, I just don't like the RNG aspect, but these changes to Mortelix, guys, are so good. I think I don't even need to read the rest. I will almost automatically say he has the craziest changes, and probably the changes I like the most will impact the meta the most, I think, out of its entire balance patch. But we'll see. EE getting changed as well. Speed. Okay, cool. That's nice. All right, let's keep going, guys. Yulha, my God. So 10% more on the reflection. Symphony of Agony, cooldown decreased, and we get to soul burn. Instead of extra turn, we get damage dealt. Okay. Yeah, they're saying it lacked in usability, and honestly, I kind of agree with that. More damage is just kind of nice, I guess. All right, not too significant, but I think Yulha was already in an okay spot. All right, Blooming Lidica. And by the way, guys, you might see this character being used more, especially when Harsetti... People have been cooking with this unit with kind of Harsetti comps. But we get Penetrate by 50%. Oh, let me just read this one. So Penetrate the target's defense by 50%. All right. Like I said, Ilinov stock's going up, but definitely good change for Lidica. Ludica, some people say. All right. Finally, guys, we're on to the 4 stars. My goodness. Auxiliary loss. Oxlots. I remember the last time they adjusted this guy, people hated it. So 2 souls, cooldown increased to 2 turns. And he gets exploit weak points. Desolation now as well. Defense break instead of silence with a 5% chance increase. And they're going to have a recall as well. Guys, take note of this as well. They used to recall a lot of 4 stars back in the day. Mana injection, Spirit's Breath, artifact restrictions where its efficiency in specific content became excessively high, they say, making it difficult to control. Okay. We'll see if people are upset with this or not. I feel like anytime they try to change a unit's playstyle significantly, like they're talking about here with the Spirit's Breath shenanigans, because this cooldown increase is quite significant, people are never happy with it. But yeah, let's see how it all pans out. I'm not too interested in this one yet, guys, but I know a lot of y'all kind of like Oxlots, so you guys let me know how much of a change this will be for y'all's playstyle, and if you like the overall buffs, if it's a net positive for you guys. Peacemaker Furious. All right, this is one I think definitely needed to be addressed, and I'm so glad to see it here. This guy was so bad on release, and I don't think he's ever been adjusted since. Maybe he's gotten something, but it was nothing making him worth using. All right, so I'm going to have to remind myself of his skills, but let's see here. Corner them. What is he changing here? When used on the caster's turn, grants an extra attack with the same skill if the caster is buffed. Okay, so as long as he's buffed, instead of 40% chance, he'll get it. A lot more consistency. Set in motion increases speed. It used to increase speed of all allies for 2 turns. Now increases speed and defense of all allies before 2 turns. But we lose the Indomitable. The Soulburn is also getting shifted from increase 100% chance here on corner them to increasing the duration of the buff. So a lot more support here, I guess, because we can give speed and defense for 3 turns if we want to Soulburn it. And the Black Hole Cannon now just gets a straight 60% defense pen, when before you'd have to have some weird defense kind of scaling or ratio against your opponent where it could go up to 60%. Now it's always 60%. All right, so a lot more consistency, right? A lot more team utility. I'm curious to see how good he'll be. I feel like I feel like what happened was he was released. A lot of people tried him out, and he was just so terrible that it wasn't really worth talking about. Is this enough? This is actually quite a significant change in defense pen. So I guess as long as we don't fight Empyrean ill enough, I could see him doing a lot more damage, especially with a double attack here being guaranteed as long as he's a buff, right? Which we get by setting in motion. Okay, cool. Veronica is getting buffed here. Combat readiness from 20 to 50% at the end of someone's turn when the enemy is granted immortality. So even better against those immortality units. Cool. Green Armin. All right. I like this change. Or I like that she's on here, I should say. When an ally is attacked by a single attack, decreases damage suffered by 30%. So 10% increase here. Very nice. And protect. Oh, sorry. This is the awakened version. I should have just read this one, but it's the same thing. Yeah. she just gets a little bit more mitigation. I don't actually know if this is going to make her more usable. People that are already using Green Armin for fun will still use her. People that weren't using her, I don't think the 10% extra mint will really make them want to reach for Armin, especially in RTA. But you know, it's a significant buff if you were using Armin already. All right, let's see the artifacts, guys. And man, this video's gone on quite a while. What a mouthful. I'm going to have to go back after we kind of... This is just my surface level review of all the changes, but I want to really go back and analyze these. The Mortelix one, the Ruele one are crazy. And I think there's probably a few things I missed, right? If there's anything you guys think that I kind of... especially on the units that I don't really play too often, namely like the Commander Pavel, maybe the Blue Says. Let me know if there's any cool combos, effects, maybe things y'all might predict in terms of combos, synergies, all that. Cruel Mischief for the Holo Trials is now going to be increased significantly. This is nice, right? Holo Trials, especially after, you know, it's getting so much more added to it between new bosses, the EEs and all that, ML stuff. It's cool. That's a cool change. Pure White Trust. This is Zahhak's artifact, right? Gains 10 souls and 100% chance at max to increase crit damage to the caster for 2 turns. Wow, that's quite a different change. Soul gain is always really, really powerful. So this could be a big one, guys. RNL now is going to get an increased attack by 10%. Man, this artifact, I'm glad is not meta anymore. I still see it around here and there, but geez, it is frustrating to fight against. And when you have it, it sometimes feels like it's cheating. But I will say in overall usability, I guess adding 10% attack, it probably needed that. It's such an RNG artifact that it sucks when it happens to you. Hostess of the Banquet, Gala's artifact, is that right? Target 50% increase damage by 16. Now it's just the flat 10 and then an additional 8. Okay, so it's really only, if you read this, guys, like 10 plus 8, 18%, 2% net increase, but more consistent. It's a lot more consistent because you still get that some of the damage bonus when they don't have this health modifier or health condition, right? Okay. You see this a lot in adjustments on artifacts or just skills in general. Anything else? Let's see. The extra turn. Ooh, okay. Currently, the battle system X7 operates on mechanisms. Single turn due to certain artifacts. Oh, like RNL? All effects are stored and granted as stacked additional turns. Yeah. While there are probability variables involved, this can be sometimes leading to situations where the battle is excessively influenced. Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about, where it just feels frustrating to fight against. If extra turns occur twice or more in a single turn, only one extra turn will be applied. So I guess that's why they're buffing RNL, because it's about to get a lot worse. This you don't see too often, but if you guys ever remember, there were like montages of units like Bikin, for example. I think Blue Kayron, they could do these crazy shenanigans where they stack a lot of turns and then they just go insane with like 5 turns. It's almost reminiscent of like Summoner's War. But yeah, okay. I don't know how relevant this is now. It seems like this was so late to fix, but yeah, sure. And you can now recall RNL if you want on top of that. All right. No replies yet, guys, because I'm reading this so early. All right. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and reread this, talk about this with some people, because these changes are insane. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smallgate added so many buffs. You guys got at least like something on here. For me, the Mortelix, my God, I can't wait to bust them out. But thank you guys. Stop by the live streams, and I'll talk with you all very soon. Peace out.